Hey friends, and welcome back. Today I wanted to share with you a really cute Dollar Tree sign kind of makeover. So all I'm using is this sign from the Dollar Tree. It is super glittery, so I'm going to use this sandpaper that's also from the Dollar Tree just to try to get as much of this glitter off as I can. And I'm gonna be honest, a lot of it isn't going to come off, so just get off what you can. I just don't want to paint over it and then the glitter that's going to fall off or is not on so tightly is going to flake off. So I'm just trying to get off anything that wants to come off. Anything that wants to really stay is fine by me because I'm going to paint over it anyway. But it is a lot of glitter, and I quickly realized that I should take this project outside, and I found the best way to sand it was to sand in a vertical direction first and then sand in a horizontal direction just to try and get off as much of the glitter as possible. And then I just shook the entire sign off, and see, it's still really glittery, but it's gonna be fine. And I take kind of a cloth, it's slightly damp but it's not wet, to wipe all of the glitter that is kind of just all over the sign at this point. So I'm just wiping it off so it's clean. So anything that wants to come off is gonna come off with that cloth. So I am using chalk paint to paint this. Acrylic paint would probably work fine too. I am using this Waverly. I'm pretty sure the shade is called Elephant. It's the only gray that they really have. And I am using a small brush to go around the edges of each of my bunnies. And then I'm going to use a larger foam brush to fill in the middle of the bunnies. So my goal here is to make these less colorful. If the green or the pink or yellow or the blue kind of shines through the gray, I'm not going to hate that as much. And because that's kind of what I'm going for, I am doing kind of 1.5 coats, I guess. So I'm going to paint the entire bunny gray, and then I'm going to move on to like the next bunny, the pink one. And while I'm doing the pink one, if I can see green kind of shining through or too much of the green shining through, I just go back and touch it up in spots. So that's what I mean by 1.5 coats. So if you don't want to see the color kind of peeking through at all, you can do 2 coats and you'll probably be completely covered. But I wasn't super concerned about hints of the color coming through, if that makes sense. And even still with just 1.5 coats, you can't really see the colors coming in through this gray chalk paint. So again, I'm just painting around the edges of my bunny, and then I also want to be really careful around the tail. So the tails on these signs are just kind of hot glued into place. You could probably pop them off, paint them, and then hot glue them back on, but I don't have time for that, so I am just being extra careful and lifting it up and painting underneath the tail the best I can, all around the tail with my small brush. You wouldn't want to do this with a large brush, so take your small brush, lift your tail up, and just paint underneath of it as carefully as you can. And then I didn't have to worry about detaching them and then hot gluing that back on. I really didn't have to do much with this. It was just really painting the sign and painting over these bunnies. So again, I'm going back to the edges, and then once I get those edges in, I'm going to use that foam brush that you see to fill in the rest of this green bunny. And since this sign did have all of that glitter on it, it is textured where I'm painting, so all of the colors, all the different bunnies have a texture to them. So kind of painting them with this foam brush, I'm able to push into that texture and get it really painted, so you can't really notice the color as much anymore. So you're able to really push it in. So here is the first bunny all painted, and I'm going to go ahead and paint the next 3 bunnies, and I'm also going to paint that welcome sign. I do want to point out that I started all the way to the right on my sign, and that is solely because I am left-handed, and if I started with the blue bunny, it would be wet and in my way as I painted the yellow bunny. So I started all the way to the right and painting right to left, so that way I'm not putting my arm in wet paint. So if you were like, why'd you start all the way at the end? It's because I'm left-handed. Pro tip for all those lefties out there. So again, I'm just painting around that little bunny cottontail, not even detaching it, and then using the big foam brush to fill in any of the larger spots on the bunny. And again, I'm pressing down and painting so I can get into that texture of that bunny. And now I'm just going to paint that welcome part of the sign, and I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm going to use my smaller brush just to paint over it. So this one is a little bit more difficult because the lines are a little bit smaller, but you want your sign to look hand painted anyway, so try not to stress and just do the best you can. I find pulling your paintbrush towards you helps you have a little bit more control than trying to push your brush away from you like I just was doing. So pulling it closer to you, towards you, can kind of help with control of that paintbrush. And again, I flipped the sign upside down so I wasn't working with the wet bunnies and trying to have to paint over them. And again, I'm going right to left because I am left-handed. Again, with this welcome part, I did one coat, and really with the hot pink behind it, it gives just kind of a sheen of pink, which I really kind of liked. So I left it that way. I didn't try to do 2 coats or even 1.5 coats for the welcome part of the sign at all. I just kind of let that little glimmer of pink you can kind of see around the edges. I let it stay, and I kind of like that it adds a little bit of spring whimsy without being an overwhelming bright pink. So I'm just doing some touch-ups on the welcome and a couple little spots on the bunnies as they dry. You can kind of see more of the spots that you might want to cover. So this is again that half coat. I'm just kind of covering some little spots that were showing in this bunny. I don't even remember what color he was supposed to be. Yellow? I think he started at yellow. He was the yellow bunny. So I was just kind of painting over a bit. So after my bunnies have dried, I decided I was going to add the names of my favorite 4 little bunnies on top. So I'm really drawn to things that come in 4s because I have 4 kids. So I knew all along that these 4 little bunnies were going to turn into my 4 little bunnies. If you don't have 4 kids, this would work out really well for a family of 4. You could also put something on there like "some bunny loves you" or any 4-word phrase, but I am putting all my little bunnies' names on here. So I am just using white adhesive vinyl, and I made them 1 inch tall and 2 inches wide, the names. The font is The Skinny, and I did bold it. That's just my preference when I work with the font The Skinny. And I'm kind of fighting to get, there we go. I got Camden's names off here, and I'm just going to place that, I covered up anyway, but I'm gonna place it over here. And I found the best way to really get these stickers on, because we have that texture with these bunnies, is to use my finger and just kind of press the stickers in place the best I can and slowly take off my transfer paper. And my favorite transfer paper is just this clear shelf liner from Dollar Tree, and I use it all the time for everything. So I'm going to do the same thing with Carter's, and this time I'm going to use like my scissors and the handle of my scissors to really press his name in there. And again, I fight with it. I think it's just the font is so small, I just have to really take my time. Also, I found that glitter was kind of all over the place at this point, so every time I used my transfer tape, more and more glitter was getting on it. So usually I can use my transfer tape kind of over and over and over again, but this time it was getting really less sticky every time I used it because it was getting more and more covered with glitter. So here I am using the scissors to kind of press them down, but I go back to using my fingers because it just seems easier to like really get them into the texture. But once they're on there, they're really well on there and they're pressed into place, and no one's going to really be picking at this sign. It's not going outside or anything like that. So I was really happy with the way this turned out. And then I'm adding my last little bunny again and pressing with my fingers to get her name into place. And by this time, this transfer tape is just like done. It's just totally covered in glitter. But we got all my little bunnies' names on here. I thought about like adding little bow ties or adding bows to the ears, but I kind of like how simple this is, especially because the bunnies are from behind, so I don't know if it would make sense to have bows like in their hair or bow ties, but I love it so much. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think of this project below. As always, you can find more from us here. Make sure you subscribe so you can follow all of our adventures. Give it a big thumbs up and let me know down in the comments what your spring decor style is. Are you more neutral? Do you like colors and pastels? Bye guys!